Hi guys, this is the video for Chapter 7, Lesson 3. So in this lesson, we're going to take a look at comparing proportions to percentages. And so what we call that is a percent proportion. And so if we were to describe, we've actually did this in a previous lesson very briefly, but describing a ratio, we a lot of times describe it as the part to the whole. And we know that last lesson we figured out that if we divided the part by the whole, we would get a decimal and we can move that decimal over and turn that into a percentage. So for example, if we had 2/3, right? We could divide 2 divided by 3, make that our decimal, and then write that as a percentage. So that's what we did in our last lesson. And so in this case, we would get 0.6 repeating. And to write this as a percentage, we can move our decimal 2 over. Really what we're doing is multiplying by 100. And so we'd have like 66.6%. Okay, so if we were missing any part of this, we could also describe percentages as a number out of 100. So we know that these two are equivalent. A part to the whole is equivalent to the percentage out of 100. So this model is really going to be key in this lesson. So if you want to put this down on your study guide or put this down in your notes somewhere, that the part out of the whole or the total, actually I'm going to write this as total instead of whole. I guess I'll just rewrite that here. But the part to the total is equal to the percentage out of 100. So this model is going to be awesome for us to use while we're working these problems out. And so what we're going to look at today is, what if we're missing the part, but we have everything else? Or what if we are missing the total, but we have everything else? Or what if we're missing the percentage, but we have everything else? So we're going to use these proportions, and anytime we see proportions, we can solve using cross multiplication. And so when we're missing one part out of these four parts here, we can solve and work it out to find the missing part. So another important thing is reading through our phrases and figuring out what we're missing. So what I would suggest is writing out your proportions and your ratios compared to each other. And we always know that this is going to be a percent out of 100, right? So the 100's always going to be there. You don't even have to read through to know it's going to be a percentage out of 100. So example A says 12 is what percent of 16? So we've got to decide what's our part, what's our whole, what's our percentage, what are we missing, okay? So it says what percent, which means very obviously we can tell we don't have the percentage. So I'm going to put a variable here, and I don't know the percentage. That's what I have to find. And then we have 12 is what percent of 16. So here is a trick that I have for you. Wherever you see this word of and the number that comes after it, of a number, that's most likely going to be your denominator. So think about if I said 2 out of 3, when I say the phrase of 3, that 2 is the numerator and 3 is below, 3 is the denominator, right? So when I look through this, 12 out of 16, right? So I'm going to put 12 here and 16 below. So this of and then the number, that phrase, is going to tell you what that total really is, okay? So now I'm missing this percentage. I can cross multiply and use this strategy like we've done before 12 times 100 is 1200 equals 16 times x, so it's 16x, and then divide both sides by 16. So once you set it all up, the solving part is not too hard because it's stuff you've done before, but the big thing is just setting up your equation, I think, because sometimes these phrases are read in a way that's kind of awkward, or you're like, wait, what am I reading here? And so you have to think for a second, okay, where do these parts go? So the answer once you solve it by 16 is 75, which means 12 out of 16 is 75%. So 12 is 75% of 16. So see how the phrasing of it is kind of strange. It's not how we normally phrase things like in our daily language, but the key is looking at that phrase of whatever. So let's practice that here. What percent of 8 is 7? Well, first of all, the what percent is very obviously stated that that's what we're missing. So then we have to figure out of 8 is 7. So this of 8 phrase tells me that's my denominator. So that's going to go below, and 7 is going to go in the numerator, and then I have my percentage out of 100. And remember, the 100 always stays there, and that's consistent. Now we can cross multiply, and of course, we're going to put a variable here to show, let's just change this to x, to show that I don't know what this percentage is. You can cross multiply 700 divided by 8, right? So we're going to do 7 times 100, 700 equals 8x. So we're going to divide by 8 on both sides. And the answer is 87.5. And I know that they literally worked out these problems already, but I just want to work through it with you so you can see what I'm doing here. So 87.5% is 7 out of 8, or of 57. Sorry, it's early in the morning for me right here. 87.5% of 8 is 7. So this phrase definitely sounds a little like, wait a minute, what are you saying? But if you can kind of break down what these parts mean, then it's much more simple. Okay, so what number, let's like example 2. What number is 1.4% of 15? Okay, so I'm given the percent this time, which means I would put this 1.4 out of 100 as my ratio here. And then it says of 15, which means I have the denominator, I have the of part, but I'm missing the out of part. I don't know what it's out of, or the number out of 15, right? I don't have the number out of 15. So now I've filled in all my parts. I can cross multiply. And once you get to this point, it's the same idea, right? You're not doing anything different. So now you have 15 times 1.4, and that's 2.1. Not 2.1, that's the 21. 15 times 1.4 is 21. And then 100x divide by 100. And when you divide by 100, you have 0.21. And you can use your calculators for this. That's fine with me. You can use your calculator for this chapter. So 0.21 out of 15 is equivalent to 1.4%. All right, B. 225 is 36% of what number? So see how we have the of, and we don't know out of what number. So let's put this down. We have 225 out of, I don't know what it's out of, and I'm given the percentage 36 out of 100. So that 100 always stays in that spot under the percentage. Okay, so now we can multiply 225 times 100 and then divide by 36 when you work that out. B is 625, and so 225 out of 625 is equivalent to 36%. Okay, so I'm going to pick a few of these to do with you, and then I'm going to let you guys do some. So let's see, I'm going to do this one, this one, this one, and this one. So I'm going to do these 4 with you guys just one more time. And if you want to pause and work it out before I do it, and then just check, that's totally fine. So writing this out, 48 is what percent of 52? So 48 out of 52 is equivalent to X out of 100. What percent? I don't know. So you can cross multiply and work that out. So 4,800 divided by 52, that is 92.3%. And it says round to the nearest tenth, so follow the directions and round accordingly. Number 3, what percent of 22 is 56? So of 22, don't be mistaken. I know 22 looks smaller than 56, but still 56 goes above. And we're going to say X out of 100. Okay, so we have 5,600 divide by 22. And that's 254.5, 254.5%. That's a big number, isn't it? Okay, number 5. What is 99% of 840? So we don't have the amount that's above 840. We know it's out of 840. And then we have 99% out of 100. So now we can do 840 times 99. And then divide that by 100. And the answer is 831.6. 831.6. That out of 840 is 99%. Okay, number 9. 60 is 29% of what number? So 60 out of what number? I don't know. Out of what number is 29%? So 29 out of 100. 60 times 100. And then now divide that by 29. I'm not showing all my work right here, but because you can plug this in your calculator if you want to. When I round this on my calculator, I think this goes up to 0.9, so it's 206.9. 60 out of 206.9 is 29%. Okay, I'm just gonna pick a few for you guys to do, and I'm not gonna like write everything out. I'm just gonna write the answer for you to check. So let's say these 3. Does that sound good? You can pause and work on those. So looking here, number 4 is 375%. Number 6 is 1.7. Number 8 is 106.3 rounded. Okay. All right, so hopefully that you got those. That's a good little self-check for yourself. Looking down, we're just going to apply this to our word problems. Okay, so let's look at an example here. On Main Street in Jamiestown, there are 3 Mexican restaurants, 2 seafood restaurants, 4 fast food restaurants, 2 Chinese restaurants, and 1 steakhouse restaurant. What percent of the restaurants on Main Street are Mexican restaurants? So really the idea stays the same. You're looking at the part to the total. And so the total would be all the restaurants, and the part would be Mexican restaurants, right? So we'd have to add up all the restaurants to find that total. So we'd have to do 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1. And when we add them all up, we get 12. And there are 3 Mexican restaurants. So there's 3 Mexican restaurants. That goes up here. And we're going to look at this as 3 out of 12 is equivalent to what percentage? And so we realize that is actually 25%. Let's look at example 2. In her freshman year of college, Caitlin took a total of 16 credits. Her math class was 25% of those credits. How many credits was her math class? So we have the total, and it's even very clearly stated for us, a total of, right? And you see that of word of is what's out of that. So 16 is our total, and we're missing the part, but we know it's 25%. So we want to know, okay, how many credits was that math class? And so we can follow the same method and cross multiply, and the answer would be 4. So the math class was 4 credits. So let's work a few of these out. At the pet store in the mall, there are 21 dogs, 13 cats, 12 rabbits, and 5 hamsters, and 3 ferrets. Okay, there's a lot of animals. So we need to add them all up to find the total. And then it says what percent of the animals in the pet store are rabbits. And so there's 12 rabbits. So I know the part is my rabbits here. I'm going to do it over here. 12 out of, so add them all up. I think when I add them all up, I get 54. And what we're looking for is the percentage out of 100. So we can cross multiply and work that out. So you can pause that and work it out. Once you do that, I think the answer is 22.2%. Okay, I don't think I'm going to go through the whole process of working every single problem out with you. Number 2, you spent 7 hours of your day at school. What percentage of the day do you spend at school? So, do you guys know how many hours are in a day? You know that. So even though it's not said here, that's intended it's intended where you understand how many hours are in a day. So we have 7 hours a day at school, and out of 24 hours in a day. The question is asking what percentage of the day do you spend at school? So sometimes you might feel like, oh, I spend literally all day at school. Well, is it really 100% of your day at school? Let's find out. So we can cross multiply 700 divided by 24. When you work that out, that is 29.17. So I'm going to round it to 2 maybe. 2%. That's not a lot at all. That's not a ton of time at school. So not too bad, right? Out of 24 hours. Okay, number 3, reading. You have read 234 pages of your book, which is about 78% of the book. How many pages are in the whole book? So this keyword here also gives you an idea that you're missing the total. So 234 out of the total, I don't know what it is equivalent to 78%, 78 out of 100. So cross multiply 234 times 100 and then divide that by 78. When you work that out, you can pause it if you want, work it out. It's 300 pages. So there's 300 pages total in your book that you read here. All right. Good job. And that's all I have for you guys today.